Hello, this is Bob Cooke here. I'm doing a presentation on the philosophical principles of integrative psychotherapy. These are really important principles, not only that are at the heart of the integrative psychotherapy process, but very important for the psychotherapist who's working from this modality, actually takes on board and follows through in the therapeutic process with the client. Let's go to the first one, and that's all people are equally valuable. So it's a wonderful way of thinking for the therapist to see that however the client presents, they are of great value. Quite often, of course, the client comes into your therapy room believing they are of little value, and certainly of little value to themselves and other people, including you, of course. So it's very important that you stroke them for their very essence. You stroke them for their wonderful characteristics, their sense of curiosity, their sense of spontaneity in life, their sense of real worthfulness, even if they are out in touch of those principles. Okay, let's go to the second one, which is all human experience is organised physiologically, affectively, and or cognitively. In other words, how they contact you. Is it mainly at the beginning through their physical side, their emotional side, or their cognitive side? And of course, I think it's best in terms of attunement at the beginning to contact them, which part of the self they actually present. So, for example, if they are presenting through emotions, then I think it's important to build up the working relationship in terms of meeting them at the emotional level. And if it's going to be the cognitive side they present, then it's important for you to, I think, attune with them at a cognitive level, in the sense of building up the working relationship. And I think that's really important here. So whatever way they present in terms of the sense of self, then it's important that you contact them at that particular level, whether it's emotional, cognitive, or physiological. Okay, let's go into the next one, which is all human behaving as meaning in some context. Extraordinarily important. However bizarre a client might behave in the therapeutic room, it's really important to understand that behaviour will make total sense in some context. If you do an accurate relational inquiry, especially a historical and phenomenological one, then you will see that behaviour makes logical sense in the context of their earlier childhood, and the decisions they made at those times will be very accurate in terms of survival. Even though today, in this time zone, of course, it may seem quite bizarre to you. I think it's really important to have this attitude as a therapist, because then you can start help them making the connections between past and present. Okay, internal and external contact is essential to human functioning. In other words, external contact is manifestation of the intrapsychic contact or internal contact. So the therapist can go in, make contact either externally with the way they present, or they can make internal contact. In other words, they can say, well, how are you? What's happening inside for you? Tell me a little bit about the narratives you say to yourself. Because you see, the internal world get replicated in the external world, and both of them need addressing. Okay, let's go. All people are relationship seeking and interdependent throughout life. Very important to recognise that we are social animals, and that however avoidant, withdrawn, schizoid, the actual client is in your therapeutic room, they need, like oxygen, to be in relationship, or at least to seek to be in relationship throughout life. And it's often the situation when people come in to my therapy room that they may feel isolated, lonely, and it's important to really honour that isn't what they really unconsciously or even consciously desire, and the more healthy position is what they usually crave, which is being able to, be in social contact with another, have a relationship at an intimate level. And it's the hurts, the trauma, the challenges and difficulties throughout life which has usually caused the problems in terms of a relationship seeking process. And of course, please remember that as a therapist, the relationship with the client might be one which may be the most healthy they've ever had, or at least the possibility of a healthy relationship is there in the room. Humans have an innate thirst to grow. In other words, that just like the self-actualization movement, the potential for growth is there in front of us, and left to their own purposes, they will always be looking to grow, develop their sense of spontaneity and their sense of curiosity. So that's an important attitude for us to have, I think, as therapists. Humans suffer from relational disruptions, not psychopathology. Yeah, if we trace back most, if not all, of the psychopathology or the stuck places that was often talked about in the medical journals, like the DSM-5, when they talk about conditions as a noun rather than a verb, like paranoia or schizoid or borderline or narcissism. Whichever way we look at this, it's important to think about the people have become the way they are through early disruptions, early relational disruptions, emotional challenges. They weren't born that particular way. Their early childhood, their suffering comes from early disruptions in relationship. I think that's a very important principle to think about. Okay, let's go to the next one, which is the intersubjective process of psychotherapy is more important than the content of the psychotherapy. In other words, what's much more important than what is actually said in the therapy room is what's happening between the two of you within the therapeutic process. We all know that the relationship is the curative factor in the psychotherapy, not the modality, not what's said between the two of you at a verbal level, but what's actually happening at an intersubjective level and even an unconscious level, much more important than the verbal content. Okay, thank you for listening to this, and bye-bye.